I watched him accept a standing ovation for work I built with my own hands. He smiled. He shook the CEO's hand. He thanked his incredible team. I was that figure in the back. And I wasn't clapping. Because every single word on that stage, every slide, every data model, every line of code architecture was mine. 17 months of my life, standing up there wearing someone else's name. But here's what he didn't know. I had been preparing for this moment for 6 weeks, and I was ready. I joined Arcturus Systems in 2018 as a senior software engineer. Mid-size SaaS company, Chicago. The kind of place that felt exciting for the first 2 years, until you realized the people at the top had been there forever, and they intended to stay. My manager was a man I'll call Richard Cole, 43 years old, 15 years at the company. He had the title, the corner office, and the confidence of someone who had never once been held accountable for anything. He was the kind of man who forwarded your emails to the CEO with his name at the top. I had spent 17 months building what I called Project Lighthouse, an AI-assisted quality assurance framework that could reduce software bug detection time by 73%. I had the internal memos, I had the version history, I had the Slack threads going back to January 2019. It was the most important work of my career, and Richard Cole knew every detail of it because I had trusted him. That trust would cost me everything and then win me back more. The company's annual product showcase was scheduled for October 3rd, 2019. The board of directors would be present, investors, press. I had been preparing my presentation for 3 weeks. 8 days before the showcase, Richard called me into his office and closed the door. He said the presentation had been reorganized. Too many speakers. He would consolidate the technical segments. He would present Lighthouse himself to give it the executive framing it deserves. He told me I would be credited. He said the words, team effort. He smiled the whole time. I nodded. I went back to my desk. And then I opened a new folder on my personal hard drive and labeled it evidence, because something in that meeting felt wrong in a way I couldn't name yet. It sat in my chest like a stone. I started exporting everything. Git commit history, Slack messages, email threads, every document where I had introduced, developed, or refined Lighthouse, with timestamps intact. October 3rd arrived. Richard Cole walked onto that stage in a 3000 suit and delivered my 17 months of work in 42 minutes. He didn't change a variable. He didn't alter a single diagram. He used my exact phrase, predictive failure mapping, 3 separate times. The CEO gave him a standing ovation. The board approved immediate development funding of $2.3 million. And 2 weeks later, Richard Cole was promoted to Vice President of Product Engineering. $210,000 base salary, stock options, his photo on the company website. My performance review that quarter described me as solid but not yet ready for senior leadership. I printed that review. I added it to the folder. Here is something they don't teach you in any computer science program. Intellectual property theft inside corporations is almost never prosecuted because most victims don't know they have a case. They feel it. They know it happened. But they can't prove it, so they quit. They move on. They swallow it. I almost did the same thing. But 3 weeks after Richard's promotion, I had a coffee with a former colleague, a woman named Dana, who had left Arcturus the year before. I mentioned what had happened, casually, like it was just office gossip. She put down her cup and said 4 words, "Get an employment attorney." Dana had worked in tech law before pivoting to engineering. She knew exactly what had happened to me, had a name, misappropriation of intellectual property and trade secrets, potentially actionable under both Illinois state law and the Federal Defend Trade Secrets Act of 2016. I didn't sleep that night. I read for 7 hours straight. I contacted 3 employment attorneys the next morning. The second one I spoke to stopped me after 12 minutes and said, "How much documentation do you have?" I told her about the folder. She said, "This is a very strong case. The most dangerous employee isn't the one who quits. It's the one who stays quiet, builds the case, and walks in with a lawyer." We filed a formal complaint with the company's legal department on December 11th, 2019. Attached to the complaint were 214 pages of documentation, Git logs proving I had authored every major commit. Slack conversations in which Richard had asked me to walk him through the architecture 3 months before the showcase. A recorded phone call, legally obtained under Illinois' one-party consent law, where Richard told a colleague that Lighthouse was a framework the team had been developing. The team, singular member. Me, what happened next, I did not expect. During the legal discovery process, Arcturus's own internal audit uncovered something their HR team had never investigated. Richard Cole had done this before, inside the same company. In 2016, a junior developer named Kevin Marsh had built an internal deployment automation tool. Richard had presented it to leadership as a departmental initiative. Kevin had been moved to a different team 6 months later, quietly, without explanation. Kevin was still at the company, and he had kept his files. There were now 2 of us, with documented evidence, against 1 man, inside the same organization. The company's outside legal counsel reached out to my attorney within 9 days. The lawsuit took 6 months to settle. I am bound by a non-disclosure agreement on the specific financial terms. What I am permitted to say, the settlement was substantial. It included formal written acknowledgement that Project Lighthouse was my intellectual creation. It included retroactive equity. And it included a clause I personally insisted on, a documented correction to my performance record. Richard Cole's VP title was rescinded before the settlement was even finalized. He was placed on administrative leave the same week our complaint was filed. By February, he had signed a separation agreement. His LinkedIn profile disappeared 3 days later. I heard through a former colleague that he had tried to land a director role at 2 other Chicago tech firms. Both offers were withdrawn at the reference check stage. The industry is smaller than people think, and reputations travel faster than resignations. Kevin Marsh was compensated separately. He used part of his settlement to fund a side project he'd been building for 2 years. That project was acquired 18 months later for an amount he described to me as life-changing. The thing about stolen work, the creator always has more where it came from. As for me, I left Arcturus 3 months after the settlement closed. I joined a competitor. Within 14 months, I led the launch of a next-generation QA platform built on the same principles as Lighthouse. In our first year, we signed 4 of Arcturus's enterprise clients. I don't think about Richard Cole very often, but when I do, I don't feel anger. I feel grateful, because he made me understand something that changed how I operate forever. Document everything from day 1, not because you're paranoid, but because the moment someone decides to take what's yours, you will have no time to start gathering proof. Every email, every Slack message, every meeting where your idea was discussed, save it, date it, back it up. Corporate betrayal doesn't look like a villain twirling a mustache. It looks like your manager saying, "Let me handle the presentation." It looks like a performance review that calls you solid. It looks like a promotion announcement for someone else's work. It is quiet. It is professional. And it is far more common than anyone admits. Richard Cole didn't lose his career because he stole my project. He lost it because he believed, the way so many people in his position believe, that the person below him on the org chart simply wouldn't fight back. So I'll leave you with this. Right now, in an office somewhere, someone is nodding quietly in a meeting while their idea gets claimed by someone with a better title. They're not saying anything. They're just watching and taking notes. The question is, are you the one nodding, or the one who should be worried?